Here's something that should make you angry. And it's happening right now, in February 2026. According to a study by Indiana University finance professor Ryan Brewer, Caitlin Clark was responsible for over 26% of all WNBA economic activity last season. He projected her impact could reach nearly $1 billion this year. Ticket sales, merchandise, TV ratings, sponsorships, all traced back to one player. Her salary? $78,000. And here's the kicker. The WNBA just signed a TV deal worth over $200 million a year, 4 times what they had before. That money is coming because of players like Clark, and she won't see a dime of it. But here's what's worse. Right now, there's a group of 7 players negotiating the biggest labor deal in WNBA history. They're using Caitlin Clark's name. They're using her leverage. They're using the revenue she created to demand higher salaries for themselves. And Caitlin Clark? She's not in the room. She has no vote. She has no seat at the table. The players negotiating this deal already have backup plans. $1-million contracts with other leagues. Escape routes if everything falls apart. Clark doesn't. She's all in on the WNBA, and they know it. Let me show you what I mean. The WNBA Players Association has a 7-member executive committee. These are the people who can call a strike. These are the people sitting across from Commissioner Cathy Engelbert and the owners. These are the people, alongside Executive Director Terri Carmichael Jackson, who will decide whether there's even a season in 2026. Here's who's on that committee. Nneka Ogwumike, the president. Kelsey Plum, first vice president. Breanna Stewart, Napheesa Collier, Elisha Clark, all vice presidents. Elizabeth Williams is secretary. Breanna Turner is treasurer. Notice anyone missing? The most valuable player in the league, the one who drove that $100 million in revenue, isn't on the list. Now you might say, well, she's young. She's only been in the league 2 years. Let the veterans handle it. Okay, fair enough. But here's where it gets interesting. Nneka Ogwumike, the president of the Players Union, the one leading these negotiations, she signed with Project B. You know what Project B is? It's a brand new league launching this fall. They're offering 7-figure salaries, $1-million contracts to play basketball overseas. And Ogwumike took one. So did Kelsey Mitchell, Clark's own teammate on the Fever. So did Sophie Cunningham, another Fever player. So did Alyssa Thomas, Jewel Lloyd, Jonquel Jones. But it gets even messier. Breanna Stewart and Napheesa Collier aren't just vice presidents on the union negotiating committee, they're also the co-founders and co-owners of Unrivaled. That's the 3-on-3 league running right now during the offseason. They have equity stakes in a competing league while sitting across from Cathy Engelbert negotiating the WNBA's future. Think about that for a second. The people deciding whether to strike own a league that benefits if the WNBA season gets canceled. These players are negotiating hardball with the WNBA while they've already got their backup plans locked in. If the negotiations fail, if there's a strike, if the whole thing falls apart, they're fine. They've got Project B money waiting for them. But Caitlin Clark? She said no. Sophie Cunningham, her own teammate, tried to recruit her. Clark turned it down. She went on NBC 2 days ago and said, quote, "I plan to play in the WNBA." She's not hedging. She's not protecting herself. She's all in. And look at who else isn't hedging. A'ja Wilson, the 3-time MVP, arguably the best player in the league. She hasn't signed with Project B. She's not playing in Unrivaled. She said she wants to decompress in the offseason. So the 2 most valuable players in the league, Wilson and Clark, are betting everything on the WNBA. Meanwhile, the people negotiating on their behalf? Ogwumike signed with Project B. Stewart and Collier co-founded Unrivaled and own equity in it. Clark's own teammates Mitchell and Cunningham took Project B deals. The players with the most leverage have the fewest backup plans. The players at the negotiating table have already protected themselves. Now, let's talk about what they're actually fighting over. The players want 30% of gross revenue. That's the money before expenses get deducted. They want a salary cap around $10.5 million per team. They want a max salary of $2.5 million. The league is offering 70% of net revenue. That's after expenses. A salary cap of $5 million. A max salary starting around $1.3 million and growing to nearly $2 million over the life of the deal. To put that in perspective, the current Supermax contract is $249,000. The league's offer would multiply that by 5. That's real money. But here's the uncomfortable part. The veterans on that executive committee, if this deal goes through, they're the ones getting those max contracts. Breanna Stewart, Napheesa Collier, Aja Wilson. They're the ones who will see million-dollar-plus salaries. Caitlin Clark, she's locked into a rookie contract. 4 years, $338,000 total, about $78,000 per season. She can't renegotiate. The new CBA won't change that. She's stuck until her contract expires. So who's really benefiting from these negotiations? Not the player generating all the leverage. On Monday, February 3rd, 2026, the league and the players finally met in person. First time since October with actual players in the room. 40 players showed up, in person and over Zoom. Nneka Ogwumike was there. Breanna Turner, Alicia Clark, Breanna Stewart called in from Miami. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert sat across the table with members of the Labor Relations Committee. You know what the league showed up with? Nothing. No counter-proposal. They hadn't even responded to what the players sent them 6 weeks ago. Ogwumike told reporters afterward that the league volunteered that they did not have a proposal prepared. She said it set the tone for the conversation. 3 hours. That's how long the meeting lasted. And they left with nothing new on the table. Meanwhile, there's a strong debate happening inside that executive committee. ESPN reported it. Some members want to hold firm, fundamentally change the revenue model, no compromises. Others think they've already won enough and should take the deal before it gets worse. So you've got a fractured union, a league that won't respond, and a strike authorization that's still active. The status quo period can't last forever. A work stoppage is still very much on the table. And somewhere in Indiana, Caitlin Clark is watching all of this happen without a vote. Her team can't sign free agents. They can't prepare for the expansion draft. They're stuck, just like she is. Here's the thing about Clark. She's been careful. She's not throwing bombs. She's not picking sides. 2 days ago on NBC, she said,
"Well, honestly, I don't think it's just a big moment for the WNBA. I think all of women's sports, I think this is one of the biggest moments we've ever had. So, I feel very confident that we're going to get something done."
Back in December at USA basketball camp, she said,
Very high level, and I think the most important thing for myself, thinking about these CBA negotiations, this is the biggest moment the WNBA has ever seen. And it's not something that can be messed up. And, we're going to fight for everything that we deserve, but at the same time, we need to play basketball.
She called for compromise. She emphasized the product on the floor. She talked about how business is booming and they need to keep meeting the moment. That's not the language of someone ready to burn it all down. And yet, her name is being used by people who might be willing to do exactly that. Think about it from the league's perspective. Every time Ogwumike walks into that room, they know she's got Project B money waiting. Every time Collier makes a demand, they know she's got options. The only leverage the union really has is Caitlin Clark. She's the one filling arenas. She's the one driving TV ratings. She's the one fans are paying to see. And she's the one with no escape route. If you've watched labor negotiations before, and if you're over 55, you probably remember a few, you know this pattern. The people at the negotiating table usually protect themselves first. That's human nature. And when you've got a backup plan, you can afford to play hardball. The ones who get squeezed, the ones without options. Caitlin Clark could have signed with Project B. She could have hedged like everyone else. Instead, she bet on the WNBA. She bet on the league that's paying her less than a first-year teacher makes in most states. And now she's watching 7 players, some of them her own teammates, use her name to negotiate raises she won't see for years. The WNBA season is supposed to start May 8th. The Toronto Tempo and Portland Fire expansion drafts are frozen. Free agency is frozen. The whole league is in limbo. And the player who could end all of this with one statement? She's staying quiet. She's calling for compromise. She's trusting the process. Maybe that's smart. Maybe that's naive. But it's definitely not something she has any control over. So the next time you hear about CBA negotiations or strike authorizations or executive committee meetings, remember who's actually in the room. It's not the player who created the leverage. It's the players who've already protected themselves. And Caitlin Clark, she's just hoping they don't burn down the house she bet everything on. What do you think? Is Clark being used, or is she playing the long game? Drop a comment below. And if you want more on this story, make sure you're subscribed. I'll be covering every twist as it happens.